This is a moderate-sized island, isolated in the middle of an endless ocean. And I'm stranded here for the next 100 days with nothing but empty stomachs, barely any resources, and no one to share it with. This guy doesn't count, he's not my friend. I'm not just trying to survive. I'll transform this abandoned piece of junk into a paradise. But this time, I'm not alone. I've added the Thalassophobia mod, and now the ocean isn't just water, it's a hunting ground. Massive, nightmare-fueled sea monsters are out there, waiting, watching, and ready to drag me into the depths. Sounds easy, right? No, this was not easy at all. This is without a doubt the toughest challenge I've ever faced. So grab a snack, kick back and relax, because this is how I survived 100 days on a deserted island in Minecraft Hardcore. I spawned on this beautiful island and immediately asked myself the real question: how long until I lose my mind out here? Naturally, I set off to explore the place where I'd be wasting the next 100 days of my life. Not long after, I stumbled across a gorgeous little bay, very scenic, very relaxing. Anyway, even better, I discovered there were bees on the island. Finally, some company that wouldn't immediately try to kill me. My first epic challenge, a 1 vs 1 duel with a pig, followed shortly by a dramatic face-off with a sheep, which ignored me completely. Honestly, probably the most humiliating moment of my survival so far. Then I reached a jagged stretch of beach and thought, wow, this is ugly, I'll have to rebuild it someday. Not today, of course. Only a complete psychopath would start doing beachfront property renovations on day 1 of being stranded. Instead, I leapt into the ocean to test the Thalassophobia mod, expecting nightmares. And apart from a giant turtle giving me the side eye, everything was peaceful. Maybe this mod wasn't so bad after all. Finally, I got to the classics. Chopped down my first birch tree, slapped together a crafting table and made the standard wooden tools. Survival officially began. While wandering around, I discovered some sugarcane and a pretty cool ravine. For reasons I still can't explain, I then spent a solid 30 minutes just staring into the water. Truly peak survival gameplay. With my trusty wooden axe, I chopped down another tree and grabbed some cobblestone. That's when I struck gold. Or well, iron, one single piece. A whole new era of technology unlocked, except not really. I crossed paths with my old rival, the face-off sheep, who once again ignored me like I didn't even exist. Out of spite, I shoved a chicken into a hole. Don't ask why, it felt right. Moments later, I encountered one of the island's natives, a zombie. He was quickly and permanently relocated. For reasons unknown, I decided to start a tiny farm in a hole. Why in a hole? No clue. Farming logic clearly wasn't my strength. As the moon rose, I realized I had made a huge mistake. I had no shelter. I sprinted across the island in a panic, and there it was again, that same pig from earlier, apparently also trying to hide. Misery loves company. Eventually, I stumbled into a small cave that felt somewhat safe. Naturally, I dug a staircase down, immediately hit water and remembered, alright, I'm on an island. Brilliant. In a stroke of pure genius, I decided to explore the flooded cave with torches. Spoiler, it was not a good idea. After finding that single piece of iron, I immediately lost all motivation and resurfaced. I built a furnace, smelted my glorious 5 pieces of iron and, like a genius, tried to mine coal underwater. Instant regret. At least I crafted my very first iron pickaxe, which made me feel unstoppable for about 30 seconds. For dinner, I enjoyed a 5-star gourmet meal of native delicacy, also known as zombie flesh. Delicious. Then I packed my things and bravely left the cave, only to be immediately swamped by monsters and sprint straight back inside. That's when the zombies broke in. 5 of them, one after another. My so-called safe base turned into a discount horror movie set. In the chaos, I even attempted to rescue the chicken, but halfway through, I decided I didn't care anymore. By the time the sun rose on day 2, I was battered, traumatized, and running toward my pathetic little excuse for a farm. I expanded my pathetic excuse for a farm and started tearing up patches of grass in the desperate hope of finding seeds. With my agricultural empire growing at a snail's pace, I set off to explore the island again. I revisited the cool little ravine and even took another dive, this time hunting for something edible. Thankfully, I found some fish, and more importantly, nothing that tried to kill me. I cooked my catch right against the cliffside, like a true caveman chef, and, for the first time, finally healed up. Feeling unstoppable, I turned my attention to rescuing a chicken. I dragged it halfway across the island with seeds and locked it into a spacious enclosure. I'm sure the chicken absolutely loved its new life in captivity. With my poultry prison established, I expanded the pen and crafted a pair of shears, hoping for some wool. My favorite sheep on the island was the first victim. I stole its wool, then looted a few more sheep just for good measure. Down by the water, I picked up some iron too, because apparently this island runs on underwater mining. With enough wool collected, I proudly crafted my very first bed. Finally, a way to skip the nightmare fuel that stalked me every night. But before using it, I stood at the shore and admired the sunset. For a brief moment, everything looked peaceful, almost like I wasn't completely losing my mind. The next morning, I decided to unleash my obsession with wood and cleared out a few of the nearby trees. After that, I bred the chickens, because nothing says survival like forcing your poultry into mass reproduction. Then, for some reason, I felt emotionally attacked by a cluster of tiny rocks sitting in the bay. Naturally, I swam over and destroyed them out of pure spite. Logical island survival strategy: terraform the scenery before building a proper shelter. While swimming back, I spotted a shark gliding beneath the waves, which which was my cue to get out of the water as fast as possible. Shaken but alive, I distracted myself by expanding my sugarcane farm. For reasons beyond me, the stuff somehow grows directly in the water, so I just planted it in the strangest spots I could. With the day winding down, I sprinted across the island and dove into bed before the night could throw anything else at me. Day 4. At sunrise, I ventured into a small cave and decided it was finally time for a mining trip. I carved out a ridiculously long staircase straight down into the earth and quickly struck iron. A good start, until I realized nearly all of it was underwater. Typical island life. I pushed deeper, discovering more iron, then a pocket of lapis, also underwater. More iron, again underwater. At this point, I was basically drowning for a living, but I kept going, scraping together whatever resources I could from the flooded tunnels. Along the way, I even stumbled upon some redstone, and of course, even more iron. The entire day became a cycle of suffocating, mining, surfacing for air, and repeating, desperately trying not to die in the process. On my way back up, I snagged a bit of copper to round out the haul, and just like that, day 4 came to an end. Exhausted, soaked, but richer in iron than ever before. The morning began with the usual routine, smelting iron, breeding chickens, and finally crafting some shiny new iron tools. I even fought a burning zombie on my way back to my pathetic excuse for a farm. That field was still so inefficient, it could have been designed by corporate management. I harvested a single wheat, farmed a few extra seeds, and of course, used them to make even more chickens. Because nothing says progress like doubling down on poultry. With my remaining iron, I crafted my very first piece of armor. Truly the start of a legendary warrior. 1 helmet away from greatness, 2 creepers away from death. After a short break, I returned to my useless patch of dirt, still pretending it was a farm. Then I remembered, oh yeah, I had installed FreeCam, so naturally I took a joyride in spectator mode to admire the island from above. And honestly, not bad. The bay looked nice, the shape was cool, almost like the island wasn't trying to kill me. Almost. That's when I noticed a bizarre water formation off the coast. A massive looming thing. Did I investigate? Of course not. I value my life too much to swim into giant suspicious water structure number 37. The rest of the day was business as usual, chopping trees, breeding chickens like a poultry tycoon, and then wandering the island. I even started my first real farm, because apparently a single wheat seedling growing in a hole wasn't cutting it. With that, day 5 came to a close. Slightly safer, slightly more efficient, and infinitely more sarcastic. At day 6, the day began like most others, chopping down a few more trees and collecting seeds for my ever-growing, ever-mediocre farm. Then I stumbled upon what can only be described as an ugly worm thing slithering through the water, clearly designed to ruin my day. At first, I was terrified. I had no idea how much damage it could do. Turns out, not much. One epic battle later, the beast was dead, dropping fish, meat, and even bone meal. Finally, a proper meal that wasn't chicken seed bread or zombie jerky. Feeling bold, I hunted a few extra fish to top off my food supply. And then, because I apparently have survival instincts of a brat, I decided the island's beach needed a facelift. That's right, stranded alone, fighting for my life, and I spent the rest of the day terraforming sand like it was an HGTV renovation project. So ended day 6. Fed, alive, and now the proud owner of a slightly prettier beach that absolutely no one but me will ever appreciate. Day 7. By the morning of day 7, I started questioning whether I had done anything productive the day before. Turns out, terraforming a beach is a lot more work than it looks. Naturally, I went right back to it, because why survive when you can rearrange sand? One day later, and after completely destroying an iron shovel and an iron pickaxe, I had made progress? Maybe. Mostly, I just stood there wondering why I was wasting my life pretending to be a construction worker on a deserted island. In an attempt to distract myself from my bad life choices, I relocated a sheep into a brand new home. By brand new home, I of course mean a pen so small it would make Peter cry. The sheep looked thrilled. Probably. As the sun set, I admired my questionable landscaping skills, spotted yet another suspicious shark in the water, and wisely decided not to go for a swim. With that, I headed straight to bed, ending the day slightly more accomplished, but also slightly more insane. Day 8. That morning, I decided to go for a little dive, because apparently I had a death wish. While underwater, I spotted some sharks, or at least something shark-shaped. Of course, they spotted me too. Luckily, I wasn't far from shore, so I scrambled back to safety. Or so I thought. Turns out, these things can attack me on land too. Fantastic. Fortunately, I had my shark slayer crown on that day and dealt with them quickly. They dropped a surprisingly generous amount of loot, raw fish, teeth, and scales. Finally, survival was starting to look like an episode of Animal Planet. Naturally, I pretended none of that ever happened and went straight back to working on my beach project. Like the responsible adult I definitely wasn't. That's when a tiny annoying little creature, probably a piranha, decided to ruin my day. I killed it. Then another one came along, also looking for fun, and I promptly sent him straight to the afterlife too. With the local fish population thoroughly traumatized, I returned to terraforming the beach. And that's pretty much how the rest of day 8 went. Me, sand, and way too many aquatic hitmen. Day 9. The morning of day 9 began with big progress. I expanded my farm by exactly 1 block. Truly revolutionary farming technology. Then I decided it would be a good idea to pick a fight with the giant turtle. Let's call him Master Uguay. Except this version wasn't here to teach me Kung Fu. No, this guy nearly one-shot me into the next life. Luckily I survived. left and I totally chose to leave him alone. Not because I was scared or anything. No, it's just that he ran away. Yeah, that's it. After that near-death experience, I went back to my real passion project, beach construction simulator. I reinforced the seabed with cobblestone, dumped sand over it and started filling in the water. Basically, terraforming like a maniac while starving on a deserted island. Peak survival gameplay. That took up most of the day, though I still found time to nitpick little details and adjust random spots that annoyed me. By sunset, the beach actually looked pretty decent, way better than before, almost like I knew what I was doing. Later that day, I expanded my farm by a whopping 3 blocks, revolutionary progress. I also bred my sheep and my chickens, survival at its finest. At some point, I chopped down a bit of wood and while admiring my empire, I started wondering, can I make armor out of fish scales? Turns out yes, you can actually craft scuba gear with them. Pretty neat, honestly, so I decided to save up in hopes of completing a full diving set one day. For now, I crafted a pair of scuba leggings. That should have been the end of the day, but no, I also decided to craft a toothed dagger instead of a boring iron sword. Apparently, you can stab with it and throw it at enemies. So basically, I invented Sharknado technology. Pretty nice. And with that, day 9 finally came to an end. On day 10, I decided to check how much a full scuba set would cost. The answer? Way too much. But I set it as my new life goal anyway, because clearly I needed more impossible side quests. I spent the morning chopping down a few trees along the beach, expanding my pathetic little farm yet again, and harvesting my suspiciously waterlogged sugarcane. Afterwards, I organized my chest into neat categories, because nothing screams stranded survival like extreme inventory management. Then I picked a fight with yet another shark. I had my shiny new tooth dagger. I could hit it from range and it actually did great damage. The shark never touched me. Easy win. Unfortunately, the loot was the same old boring fish, scales and teeth. Survival RNG hates me. To recover from that disappointment, I bred the chickens, expanded my farm again, and then went down into the mine. The moment I got there, I immediately changed my mind and went back up. Truly, one of my most productive mining sessions yet. The rest of the day, I chopped another tree and wandered aimlessly across the island, pretending that counted as progress. On day 11, I went on a proper mining trip, and this time I didn't chicken out and turn back at the first cave. Instead, I dove headfirst into a flooded cavern, because apparently drowning is my new hobby. Still, it paid off. I gathered iron, some gold, even more gold, and eventually made it out into a massive open cave system. It looked incredible. A zombie was chilling there too, but he seemed to enjoy the view so much that he didn't even bother attacking me. Feeling ambitious, I flooded a lava lake to make the place walkable, then looted it for resources, redstone, more iron, and eventually my very first diamond. Of course, it was just one diamond. The universe refuses to give me nice things. Day 12 was more of the same. Iron, and oh surprise, more iron. By day 13, I finally found some extra diamonds, more gold, and a plenty of redstone. Basically, I was running my own underground Costco, except all the deals sucked. Days 14 and 15 were spent doing exactly that. Mining, swimming through half-flooded tunnels, and hoarding more resources than I knew what to do with. By the end of it, I had enough iron to build an army of golems, but not enough diamonds to even finish a set of boots. Classic island luck. On day 15, I finally made it back to the surface. For a brief moment, I was convinced something in the water was going to absolutely destroy me. But, miracle of miracles, almost nothing had spawned. Even better, I wasn't nearly as far from my island as I thought. I had prepared myself to respawn in the middle of the ocean, but nope, home sweet home. Back on the island, I admired my mining hall like a proud dragon, hoarding shiny rocks. I expanded my farm with a potato I'd looted off a zombie, because nothing says fine cuisine like undead agriculture. Then I found a cow, dragged her into a brand new pen, which also happened to be my base. Roommates, very cozy. Of course, one cow wasn't enough. I sprinted across the island until I found her future partner in captivity and shoved her into the pen too. Breeding program unlocked. My chickens also got expanded, though that process went a little less smoothly. Basically a poultry disaster. To top it off, I finally crafted myself a full set of iron armor. At last, I could look like a budget knight, while still being one creeper away from total disaster. And with that, day 15 came to a peaceful close. On day 16, I finally did the unthinkable. I considered building a house. I know, shocking. After more than 2 weeks of surviving on this deserted island, apparently terraforming a beach for absolutely no reason doesn't count as real estate development. Who knew? Anyway, I took the FreeCam mod for a spin, basically roleplaying as some budget drone operator scouting the land for my future architectural disaster. Eventually, I picked a spot. Then I spent the entire day chopping trees. Literally the whole day. Nothing says survival genius, like turning an entire forest into IKEA starter kits. Oh, and there was this random hole in the ground. Did I fill it? Of course, because in my priorities, plugging a dirt pothole outranks food, safety, or, you know, an actual roof. I also spammed torches everywhere like I was setting up for a low-budget music festival. At least now the mobs won't spawn, though the vibes are questionable at best. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was day 16. Riveting content, chopping wood, filling holes, and aggressively procrastinating on the whole house thing. Day 17. I started the morning with the most traditional breakfast ritual of all time, yeeting eggs at chickens. Don't question it. It's basically farm to table, but with more violence. After that sacred ceremony, I admired the forest massacre from yesterday yesterday to see if I had chopped enough trees. Spoiler, I had. The Lorax is already sending me hate mail. Then, because peace is boring, I picked a fight with some ugly fish things. Don't ask me what they were. Let's just say, they looked like if Minecraft tried to render a rejected Pokemon. After surviving my aquatic midlife crisis, I went full medieval farmer and casually slaughtered cows. Why? Because I needed leather for books. That's right, education requires blood sacrifice. With that settled, I crafted my very first enchantment table. Basically, the IKEA desk of magical furniture. Naturally, the first thing I did was enchant my pickaxe. Because who needs armor or weapons when you can make mining 5% faster? Then came the big brain moment, smelting stone to get clean stone for my house. Step 1 of Operation Dream Home. I even started laying out the rough foundation. But wait, plot twist. I suddenly decided, you know what this needs? A windmill. Yes, because nothing says survival base like a random medieval landmark that generates absolutely no power. But hey, it'll look aesthetic next to the giant wheat field I might build someday. And in classic day 17 fashion, I scrapped my entire floor plan halfway through and rebuilt it out of wood. Because consistency, never heard of her. So yeah, egg wars, fish beef, cow genocide, and a foundation that may or may not ever turn into a house. That was day 17. The next day began with dirt excavation. Yep, I basically roleplayed as a discount construction worker, digging holes and pretending this was part of some master plan. After that, I went back to the foundation like the indecisive architect I am. Of course, no day is complete without chopping more trees. Because if there's one consistent theme in this survival, it's deforestation on a biblical scale. But this time, something happened. I spotted him. The Enderman, the tall block-stealing menace, just stood there, watching me like some kind of goth Slenderman cosplayer. Remember this guy? He's going to be important later. Probably my arch nemesis, my final boss, or the dude who repossesses my house. Anyway, after a full day of Foundation Redesign Simulator, I finally felt somewhat okay with my progress. From above, the base looked decent, maybe. Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing, but it was giving Pinterest board made by someone with commitment issues. To make it official, I threw up some oak posts here and there. The medieval equivalent of saying, yeah bro, construction has totally started. Morning of day 19. History was made. I finally built a wall. That's right. After 19 days of procrastination, overthinking, and a terraforming beaches like a deranged landscaper, I now had a single wall. Eat your heart out, Great Wall of China. I even added this weird little stone archway that's supposed to be a passage. Left to the windmill, right to the house. Translation. It's basically a glorified choose your own adventure door. Except both adventures are just me failing at architecture. Then I threw up the front wall of the house, proudly raising it skyward like it was some kind of holy monument. Except, spoiler alert, it's literally just cobblestone stacked in a straight line. Michelangelo would cry. And the rest of the day, I spent it thinking, just staring at the half-built mess, wondering how the heck I was supposed to turn this into something that didn't look like a Minecraft prison. Meanwhile, somewhere in the distance, my future nemesis Enderman was probably laughing at me. So yeah, day 19, one wall, one arch, and 12 hours of deep architectural despair. Progress. Day 20 finally brought me a solution I actually liked. Don't ask me what it was. Something between genius architect and guy who just stacks blocks until it looks okay. Either way, roll the time lapse. Cue epic montage music as I place blocks, remove them, place them again, and question all of my life choices in 4x speed. Fast forward to day 24, and destiny introduced me to the Wandering Trader, or as I like to call him, budget Amazon Prime with llamas. The guy offered spruce saplings and even sakura saplings. Basically pink trees straight out of an anime opening. Perfect timing, because now my house could feature yet another wood type, as if mixing more pellets will hide my terrible floor plan. Naturally, the moment the trade was done, both the trader and his llamas mysteriously disappeared. No goodbye, no refund policy, no trace, just poof. If that isn't suspicious, I don't know what is. Personally, I think Enderman had him removed. With my new wood stock secured, I started a mini tree farm to farm spruce. Day 25 kicked off with more roof construction, because apparently I'm auditioning for the role of medieval roofer instead of actually surviving. After a while, I flew up to look at the house from above and immediately had an existential crisis. Like, what have I been doing the last few days? The base currently looks like a half-baked Pinterest project and a villager's tax write-off. To cope, I did what every professional survivalist does. I sorted my inventory, peak gameplay. After that, I shoved cows and sheep into a suspiciously small pen, officially opening my first industrial-scale animal prison. Peter would not approve, but hey, I call it efficient farming. Then came the real challenge. One of those absurdly tall spruce trees spawned, the kind that laughs at your tiny iron axe and says, "Climb me, mortal." It took half the day to take it down, and I swear I aged 5 years in the process. After that ordeal, I spent a solid chunk of time aimlessly running around the island like I had no idea what game I was playing, which to be fair I didn't. Eventually I stumbled back to the house and decided to keep working on the floor plan. Specifically, I stood in the archway for about an hour, trying to figure out how to design the inside of a tunnel. Riveting content. Meanwhile, I can feel that Enderman is still watching me, silently judging my architectural disasters. One day it'll all come to a showdown, but not today. Day 26. And I finally filled the passageway with gravel to make a natural path. And by natural, I mean it looked like a dollar store hiking trail, because I didn't even have enough gravel or dirt. A true masterpiece of budget landscaping. But of course, I also needed andesite and diorite because apparently my house isn't ugly enough yet. Gotta sprinkle in some fancy rocks, so I ran back toward my old day one staircase to hunt for supplies. And who was there waiting for me? That's right, my tall, block-thieving stalker, Mr. Enderman. I swear, this guy shows up more consistently than my motivation. Anyway, jackpot, I found an andesite and diorite vein so massive, it felt like Minecraft had forgotten to put a limit on it. When I say relatively big, I mean I was mining for hours like some kind of unpaid quarry worker. Half a day later, I emerged from the stone pit with enough blocks to build an entire Roman temple, and back at base, I resumed work on the floor of the passage, then switched gears and lined the inside floor of my house with spruce wood, because nothing says classy like mixing 12 different block pallets. I even raised some outer walls, planted more spruce trees, and wrapped up with a wholesome farming session, harvesting and replanting my crops like some medieval Stardew Valley cosplayer. And that was day 26. Discount landscaping, infinite andesite mining, another awkward run-in with my Enderman nemesis, and a house that's slowly becoming less of an embarrassment. Maybe. For the next 2 days, I made the bold decision to keep building the house. Shocking plot twist, I know. And since watching me place blocks in real time is about as exciting as a PowerPoint presentation on gravel, here's another time lapse. Day 29. And guess what? I ran out of diorite and gravel again. Shocking. So back down, I went to my little quarry where I employed the legendary wiggle technique trademark, basically crouching and spamming like a true pro gamer to farm more blocks. And when I say a little bit, what I actually mean is I mined enough diorite to single-handedly construct a Gothic cathedral. I didn't just farm, I basically dug out half a basement that could host a medieval rave. Oh, and apparently I also made a suspicious amount of stone along the way. Don't ask me how, it just happened. Classic me. The following days, I turned my attention back to my ethically questionable animal enclosure. Some people call it factory farming. I prefer the term compact, efficiency-oriented livestock habitat. Basically, I thinned out the herd. After spending 2 more gloriously productive days building my house, I did what any sane person would do. I enchant and disenchant my diamond pickaxe multiple times, because obviously nothing says survival efficiency like indecision on magical tools. Then, the moment of truth, I built a nether portal. Cue dramatic music. Stepping into the nether, I was immediately greeted by pigs. Yes, pigs. Nether pigs. Basically, if regular farm pigs had a demonic glow up and decided to start a gang. I fought them with fire because why use swords when you can roast your problems away? After surviving the porcine apocalypse, I farmed some clawstone. Yes, that block you never knew you needed. And mined a little quartz, because aesthetics. Back in the overworld, I used my precious real-world diligence, read rage clicking, to craft an iron storage cabinet. But the true highlight, I set my sights on building a fully automated chicken cooker. Lava Chicken Trademark Edition. I gathered all the materials, crafted everything, and mentally prepared to create the most horrifying, deliciously efficient poultry genocide in Minecraft history. Day 33 began with more grinding, gathering and crafting everything I needed for my projects. Glass? Check. Obsessive block placement energy? Also check. Basically, I was fully in let's build chaos mode. Then the universe decided to spice things up. A horde of flowering pillagers descended upon me. Yes, flower-wielding psychopaths. They almost killed me, but obviously I handled it like a pro. Totally casual, zero sweat, definitely not 1 pixel away from catastrophic defeat. Shout out to that conveniently placed tree that saved my life. I mean, it was barely close, and clearly the Minecraft gods were on my side. Nothing like a near-death experience to make you appreciate the landscaping. And as I stood there, catching my breath, I couldn't help but wonder, is this just the beginning? Somewhere my Enderman nemesis probably observed the chaos, silently judging, biding its time. Day 33 ended with me victorious, slightly traumatized, and very ready for the next absurd adventure. Day 34 kicked off with a quest of epic proportions, finding the perfect spot for my chicken pens, because apparently chickens need personal space too. We're not monsters. Then, out of nowhere, I noticed a random pillar sticking out of the water. Naturally, I decided, yes, this is where the magic happens. I built a bridge over, removed the trees like some deranged lumberjack, and got to work constructing the chicken color farm. Yes, the fully automated multicolored poultry extravaganza. Believe it or not, this took the entire day. Hours of placement, block juggling, and staring at chickens like they were complex algorithms. But by the end of day 34, victory was mine. The farm was stocked with a few brave chickens, fully operational and ready for my lava chicken culinary experiments. Day day 35 started. Slow, really slow. I spent half the morning standing on my cart, contemplating life choices and whether Minecraft has a caffeine option. Naturally, this led me to the brilliant idea of an ocean exploration trip. Adventure, discovery, potentially falling into lava. But first, I had to deal with the local wildlife. Some weird ugly fish, maybe sharks, who apparently didn't feel like attacking me. So I didn't fight them. Call it mercy, call it fear, probably both. I was too scared they'd ambush me on the boat anyway, so I scrapped the whole exploration plan. Safety first, epicness later. Back on solid ground, I ran into the wandering trader again. Yes, the little guy who disappears faster than your will to live during a tedious mining session. But this time, he had dark oak saplings. Exactly what I needed for the house. So I gave him a nice cozy little home, marked it with torches, because apparently wandering traders are very sensitive to lighting, and prayed he doesn't vanish into the void. Oh, and in classic overachiever fashion, I enchanted a diamond pickaxe, because why just build, when you can also make mining 5% more dramatic. Day 36 kicked off with a bold decision. I was going on a big mining expedition. Why? Because emeralds don't farm themselves, obviously. Naturally, I packed iron, a lot of iron, some more iron, and a few diamonds for good measure. Gold too, because who needs inventory space anyway? Of course, danger lurked around every corner. I almost got wrecked by skeletons, more times than I'd like to admit, because apparently, being a mining prodigy comes with the bonus of near-death experiences. Then, in a twist of fate, I stumbled upon the deep dark, ominous music. Immediately, priorities shifted. Diamonds first, existential dread second. Once the ores were secure, I started looting the deep dark like a treasure hunting maniac. Some chests were more, others pretty decent. All the while, I had one eye on the shadows, because you know, the warden could spawn at any moment to absolutely destroy my ego and my life. For the next 4 days, it was basically mine, loot, sprint, like my life depends on it, because it does. Repeat, classic deep dark simulator. Oh, and of course, tragedy struck. My recording of the whole saga vanished. OBS betrayed me, capturing only my desktop instead of my epic mining escapades. So, alas, no cinematic footage of my heroic diamond grabs. But here's the loot that survived the recording apocalypse. Day 40 started with a harsh realization. I hadn't been recording properly. Classic me. Cue existential crisis. I spent a solid hour regretting my life choices, questioning my very existence, and silently blaming OBS for my sins. Professional content creator energy. Once my soul was sufficiently tormented, I turned my attention to my little trapped wandering trader. Yep, the guy in the hole. I bought some oak saplings and pink dye, because obviously I might need pink things at some point. Never hurts to be prepared. Next up, dark oak sapling placed, grown into a majestic tree, and the enchantment table relocated right into the windmill that doesn't exist yet. Then came some deep dark inspired bookcases, because nothing says epic survival base like looted literature. Naturally, I enchanted my axe with efficiency to cut down trees faster, because why chop slowly when you can chop like a maniac? Then chaos ensued. I tore down the dark tree completely, waited for saplings to drop, all while harvesting and expanding my field like some medieval agronomist on a caffeine high. And to finish the day in true day 40 style, I upgraded my chicken farm. Faster, stronger, more efficient poultry production. Lava Chicken 2.0 was coming closer to reality, and all the birds were multiplying like blocky rabbits on steroids. Day 41 kicked off with me chopping down another ominous dark tree, because apparently I thrive on destruction and poor life choices. Then came the moment I'd been dreading for what felt like 20 days, finishing that cursed roof. Yes, that roof I started ages ago, probably when I still believed in hope and architectural sanity. Finally, it's done. Hallelujah. The rest of the day, pure mental gymnastics. I stared at the main roof like it was a puzzle designed by sadistic gods. I started building, tore down half of it, stared some more, contemplated the meaning of life, and then finally decided on a design, because after all, nothing screams epic survival base like an indecisive adult arguing with blocks. Once my brain survived the ordeal, I raised the rough outline of the roof skyward. Dramatic, definitely. Necessary, debatable. Entertaining, absolutely. Day 42 kicked off with pure determination. More roof building. Cue dramatic time-lapse montage. Watch in awe as I awkwardly jump around, place blocks, fall off, and question my life choices, because apparently that's what being a Minecraft roofer entails. Now don't get me wrong, roofs aren't actually that hard. It's just the constant, ridiculous parkour and block placement while mid-air that makes you feel like a caffeinated squirrel. But hey, every Minecraft roof builder knows this pain. The main roof alone took 3 whole days. 3 days of precision jumps, occasional existential despair, and minor block placement related rage. But when it was done, pure happiness. Absolute joy. I swear I shed a tiny blocky tear. Then, because one roof wasn't enough, I decided to add a small mini roof at the bottom. Basically a little overhang to spice things up. A touch of architectural flair, if you will. Spent the rest of the day placing blocks, jumping awkwardly, and pretending this is exactly how professional builders work. Day 46 kicked off with a thrilling encounter. A random zombie. Naturally, I ended it swiftly. No big deal. Just another Monday in the life of a blocky survival legend. Then I returned returned to the ever exciting task of building my house. Until, of course, that cursed creeper decided to make a cameo. And what did it do? Exploded. Half my house was suddenly modern art, post-apocalyptic style. Motivated as ever, I repaired the blasted hole. Surprisingly, it didn't take too long. Almost like Minecraft was saying, yeah, you can recover from idiotic explosions. Almost. Of course, disaster loves company. I ran out of oak wood. Naturally, more tree planting and harvesting was required. And of course, another creeper appeared. This one nearly blew up the floor, but I managed to take it down before I could do any real damage. Victory. And yes, more oak wood farmed for the rest of the half day. Finally, sanity returned, mostly. I moved up to the second floor and started raising the walls. Logical, right? Because after surviving zombie encounters, creeper attacks, and repeated tree farming, building the next floor of your house totally makes sense. In a desperate bid for redemption, I added a few windows and stripped the bark of some tree trunks. Did it help? Slightly. Was it satisfying? Marginally. But hey, it's the thought that counts. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of planting saplings, grabbing some chicken from my painfully inefficient farm, and more wood farming. I also stared at the sea for a bit, because there were weird tentacle creatures. Don't ask me what they were. Horror vibes. Real horror vibes. Finally, completely mentally drained, but slightly satisfied with my questionable architectural choices, I went to bed, dreaming of chickens, roofs, and whatever nightmares those ocean tentacles will send me next. So, on day 47, I decided it was time to put glass everywhere in the house. Yes, because apparently transparency is the next level of survival sophistication. I borrowed more sand from my island and tried to make it look like I didn't just raid nature like a blocky bandit. Nailed it, if I may say so myself. Then I smelted more glass. Because one batch is never enough, and I spent some time pondering what else to build before the day ended. Spoiler, I didn't really do much. On day 48, I got fancy and crafted a few decorative items. You know, real survival aesthetics. Then I chopped down a massive spruce tree and a dark oak tree, because apparently my arms didn't get enough exercise yesterday. Next, I decided to add, a roof window, a skylight, some architectural thing that makes me look like I sort of know what I'm doing. Let's just call it a big opening in the roof. That took the entire day, because apparently designing windows in mid-air is a full contact sport. By the end of the day, it actually looked decent, if I squinted and ignored all the tiny imperfections. I placed some bookcases to make it feel fancy and started working on the flooring for the attic. Yes, the top floor, because nothing says survival chic like spending hours installing the perfect roof window while the Enderman silently judges from afar. Morning of day 49 kicked off with some good old glass placement, because nothing says architectural genius like endless panes of see-through blocks. Then a little trauma. I noticed a trespasser in my base. Naturally, I dealt with them swiftly. House rules are strict, people. Next, I placed a ladder on some dirt, because, shocker, I didn't have a proper way upstairs yet. House walls continued to rise. Floors got completed, and I even added some exterior decorations. A few arrow traps here and there for that authentic survival vibe. Surprisingly, it looked kinda cool. I wrapped up one side of the attic roof just as Minecraft decided to bless me with rain. Perfect. Classic mood lighting. Then, because I clearly enjoyed temporary scaffolding and unsafe construction practices, I added a lantern outside on a makeshift dirt scaffold. Naturally, it had to come down afterward. Safety first, right? I also moved the floor up one level, because apparently people like to see out of windows. Finished the back wall, added some lighting, and finally sat back to watch the sunset from my house. A serene moment, completely ignoring the chaos of the day. And just like that, day 50. First off, if you've made it this far, please consider smashing that subscribe button and giving the video a like. It would literally help me achieve my grand goal of 1000 subscribers by the end of the year. Comments, drop them. Positive, negative, existential rants, I'm open to all of it. Now back to chaos. Day 50 was mostly about diorite, because apparently nothing says halfway through survival like spending half your day in a dark hole, mining endless diorite and andesite. Progress was made, blocks were harvested, and naturally I immediately used all of it in construction. By the end of the day, the house was basically done, from the outside at least. One wall completed, exterior roughly finished, and overall a decent milestone. I scoped it out with my trusty FreeCam mod, and honestly, it looked pretty good. Of course, the windmill next to the house is still missing, but don't worry, that monstrosity will rise soon enough. Day 51 kicked off with me realizing that yesterday's work wasn't actually good enough. So naturally, I decided to redo the floor, tear it all out, and rebuild it one level higher, because apparently windows should have views. I spent the day meticulously ripping out blocks, replacing them, and questioning my life choices with each swing. Then, after some minor tweaks here and there, you know, the tiny details that make you feel like a professional builder, I wrapped up. And just like that, I rolled straight into the next day. Day 52 kicked off with a bold decision. This room down here is officially going to be my storage room, or maybe my main base. I'm not sure yet, but it sounds epic. Naturally, I started crafting a bunch of chests, because apparently survival without an overcomplicated storage system is amateur hour. The room slowly began to take shape, although I didn't really have a plan. It's basically chests go here, maybe more chests over there, and some mysterious flow in between. To fit more chests, I dug one layer down in the floor, because bigger storage equals bigger power fantasy. Then I carved a tree pillar into the wall for and the reasons. Aesthetic? Possibly. Status symbol? Definitely. After that, I expanded the floor a bit more and filled in the back walls with stairs because I ran out of normal stone. Sure, it's slightly janky, but who cares? The chests in front hide all imperfections anyway. Then I placed a few more chests, because apparently storage is never enough. Naturally, I chopped down another massive spruce tree to craft even more chests, because who doesn't need endless boxes of random survival junk? Once the chests were placed, the room actually started to look decent. Not perfect, but for Minecraft standards, pretty epic. Next, I had to figure out where to put a staircase. After some intense deliberation, I decided it should go in the corner. I experimented a bit and finally built it around a tree stump, which, if I do say so myself, actually looks pretty good. Underneath, I added a few more chests, of course, and then threw in some crossbeams to make the whole thing look sturdier. Very professional, very stable. Added a few lanterns for ambiance, because aesthetics matter, even in survival mode. The next morning, I took care of a spider. Or was it Spider-Man? Honestly, by this point, they all look the same. Web-slinging nightmares of the blocky variety. One more swing of the sword and it was gone. Crime fighting complete. Then I turned my attention back to the main storage room, because obviously, that's where all the real action happens. But then, a bold new idea. A kitchen. I placed a few furnaces and immediately realized I had no idea what I was doing. Classic. Naturally, more spruce tree chopping ensued, because apparently, survival builds demand an endless forest sacrifice. After 5 minutes of intense procrastination, because let's face it, the kitchen looked awful, I went to Google for inspiration. Yes, I googled Minecraft kitchens. Then came the table dilemma. I spent what felt like an entire night agonizing over how to build the perfect table, and in the end decided to keep it simple. Minimalism for the win. Then I decided, why not add a flower pot in the corner? Of course, I immediately changed my mind, because making decisions is apparently not my strong suit. Next, I started overhauling the kitchen, placed a few barrels, added some trapdoors, and even crafted a little vent, basically a blocky range hood. Surprisingly, it actually looked decent. A minor miracle. Then came the fine touches. A cauldron here, more barrels there, and even a little water tap for that authentic kitchen vibe. At that point, I decided to call it a day on the kitchen. Not perfect, not terrible, just good enough to pretend I know what I'm doing. Day 55 kicked off with a bold decision. A small bath. Why exactly? Who knows? Survival priorities. People. After a quick swim to contemplate life choices, I returned to the kitchen to tweak a few things and experiment with aesthetics. Eventually, I settled on a design featuring a few flower pots. Of course, they needed flowers. But before that, I added more lanterns to brighten the place up, because apparently ambient lighting is a crucial part of survival. And I have to admit, it actually looked pretty good. Next, I grabbed some saplings and planted them in the pots. Boom. Suddenly, the room had vibes. Much better than before. To finish things off, I added another flower pot in the corner, grabbed some flowers from outside, and sprinkled them around for a touch of interior flair. Day 56 started bright and early with some hardcore forestry. I chopped down a massive spruce tree and then its brother, because apparently I can never have enough wood. Survival efficiency, people. Next, I placed the leaves inside to make it look like a tree. Or maybe a plant? Honestly, I have no idea. Nature vibes, I guess. Then I got a bit fancy and added an empty bookshelf next to my bed, topped it with a few candles and lit them, because nothing says cozy survival base like fire hazards indoors. After that, I treated myself to a swim in the beautiful water. Self-care is important. And then got down to some very exciting adulting, organizing chests at least a little. Also, I brought all the random junk I had scattered outside back indoors, because clutter is apparently the enemy. Day 57 kicked off with me attempting something revolutionary, making my farm diagonal. Yeah, big architectural brain energy. I started building a path from the house, tried a fancy diagonal layout, and then promptly ripped it all out because, surprise, it looked awful. After some questionable construction choices that screamed chaotic genius, I paused to grab a snack. Survival first, aesthetics later. Took a bird's eye view of the farm. Yep, still looked like trash. But don't worry, that's a problem for future me. Next up, replanting the entire farm from scratch, because apparently mistakes are best fixed with total destruction and fresh crops. Then came the pièce de resistance, moving the cows to a new proved enclosure. Much bigger, much better, hopefully. I sealed off the old cow pen and waited for the bovine residents to get some sleep. Day 58. Started off by digging out a brand new sheep pen, obviously bigger than the old one, because luxury real estate is important when you're a sheep. Then I went to rescue the poor things from their little hole. Honestly, I was shocked at how many sheep were crammed in there. Like Minecraft sheep apparently follow clown car physics, so I marched them into their spacious new enclosure. Except a few rebels didn't want to cooperate. Those got permanently relocated off the island. Don't worry, they moved to the countryside. After that, I turned my attention back to farming. Time for hydration. I placed water buckets under the soil so everything would stay nice and moist, and then started planting seeds everywhere. Somewhere in the middle of farming, I stumbled across a cow that clearly wanted early retirement, so yeah, let's just say the cow union was not impressed. The rest of the day was spent mapping out the field's outline, cutting down some annoying trees that got in the way. Not a big deal though, more wood for me. Oh, and I could have sworn I saw something tall flicker behind the trees for half a second while I was chopping. Probably just my imagination, right? On day 59, I started by planting a few seeds just to confirm the diagonal layout of my field. While doing that, I also counted out how wide I actually wanted the fields to be, since I didn't plan on making just a single strip field. After confirming the width, I began marking marking out the rough outline of my second field. Then I went back and planted the rest of the seeds on my first field so they could start growing. Looking at it from above, it seemed pretty decent, but that weird stone thing still didn't sit right with me. Still, I pushed the diagonal line further forward and roughly finished the outline of the second field as well. At one point, I just stood AFK at the water for like 2 minutes. For some reason, it felt like something was lurking there. Maybe I was imagining things. Anyway, after that, I finally decided to tear down those cobblestone things and spent the rest of the day working on the field. In between, I also ended up fighting a shark. That's when I realized they can actually attack you while you're on a boat, which is really not great. Luckily, I was just a bit faster than it and managed to escape. Still, if anything shows up that's faster than a boat, I'm completely screwed. The shark was honestly pretty tough. They deal a lot of damage, even though I was wearing full diamond. But of course, for me, it was an easy win. Totally no challenge at all. Cough cough. After taking it down, I placed some more water around the fields to keep them nice and hydrated. And then I finally called it a day and went to bed. On day 60, I finally tore down the other half of that hideous cobblestone monstrosity. Progress at last. Then I turned my attention to the farm, expanded it, made it look a little less depressing, and maybe even tricked myself into thinking something would actually grow there. After that, I did what every hardcore survival pro does on day 60. Inventory sorting. Truly the pinnacle of entertainment. I moved chests, organized my loot, and neatly categorized everything. Or at least that's what I'll tell you. Because in reality, nothing was actually sorted. My storage system is still just one big dumpster fire with a lid on it. While waiting for my crops to grow, because farming's basically just staring at plants and praying, I distracted myself by planting a few rose bushes. A little splash of color to hide the fact that I live in a box. I also tossed down some spruce leaves around the house to make it look fancy. Well, fancy-ish. I had plans to cover the roof too, but yeah, climbing up there sounded like way too much effort. By evening, I admired the place from above. The farm made it look so much better than when it was just ugly cobblestone spammed everywhere. A small win, but hey, on a deserted island, you take what you can get. By the end of day 60, I was greeted by yet another wandering trader who, as always, was selling absolute garbage. So I treated him the way his trades deserved, like garbage. Afterwards, I went parasite hunting, don't ask. And then finally began my grand project, a windmill, because nothing screams hardcore survival like building farm aesthetics while monsters try to murder you. Of course, this wasn't going to be a quick project. Cue the time lapse. steps. 5 days later I was still building. I had officially underestimated just how much effort goes into stacking blocks in a circle. Progress was slow, patience was thinner, and the roof, oh the roof. I spent what felt like a lifetime wrestling with it. Another 5 days passed, and at last the main structure was done. By the time I placed the final block of the roof, we were already at day 69. Nice. The only thing missing was the iconic windmill blades, the big white spinny part, but those would have to wait. At some point, I decided it was time to embrace my inner farmer. I tore down my entire field and of course, we planted everything again. It took so long that the next morning was spent doing more of the exact same thing, planting seeds one block at a time, like a true agricultural speedrunner. Once that was done, I built a brand new field right next to it, this one dedicated to potatoes. Naturally, the first thing I did was harvest all the existing potatoes so I could replant them. Again, this time, I actually planted them across the whole plot instead of just along the edge, which made me feel like a genius farmer. I even placed water beneath all the blocks to make sure everything was perfectly irrigated, because if I'm going to waste my life on farming, it's going to be the most over-engineered farm possible. In between hoeing dirt for the 1000th time, I sheared my sheep for some extra wool for the windmill project. I also sorted my chests, meaning I moved items around for 5 minutes and gave up. Then I expanded the sheep pen, because the fluffy idiots were running out of space. At one point, I noticed an intruder, what I thought was a black sheep, but actually turned out to be a cow. Either way, I took care of it. Problem solved. To finish the day, I bred my sheep once more and admired the whole island from above with free cam. From up there, it almost looked like I knew what I was doing. Almost. The next 2 days were dedicated to one thing and one thing only, finally finishing the windmill. On day 72, tragedy struck. In real life, I was violently ripped away from my PC because my girlfriend decided she wanted to leave her mark on this world. I'm joking, of course, and no, I'm not. Please send help. And naturally, the first thing she did was inspect the kitchen, because you know, priorities. Then she wandered over to my empty chests, so I proudly told her, don't worry, everything is neatly sorted in the outer chests. You can take care of them if you want. Her response, physical assault. Just kidding, mostly. She wasn't impressed by my perfect organization system, but she moved on to check out the house, the farm and the windmill. Then she examined my industrial scale chicken farm and to my surprise fully supported the animal cruelty. After that she randomly sheared some sheep, why, no idea. But hey, wool is wool. At some point she took a tour of the island with free cam, flying around like she owned the place. Finally she decided to actually build something, so she marched over to one side of the island and started deforesting it like a maniac. That pretty much lasted the rest of the day. So yeah, day 72 was less about survival and more about me losing custody of my Minecraft world. The next morning she crafted herself a shiny new axe and went right back to her favorite activity, chopping down every tree in sight. Lumberjack Simulator continued all day long. By afternoon though, she decided it was time to commit the ultimate crime against my legacy, reorganizing my storage system. At first I thought she was just trolling me, turning my perfect chaos into something unrecognizable. But no, she actually sorted everything properly. What took her 20 minutes on video would have taken me, well, never, because I would have never done it. Turns out my super neat and tidy storage system was just a massive pile of random crap. Who knew? So yeah, day 73 was the day my girlfriend turned my island from trash heap into actual functioning survival base. And honestly, I love her for it. After barely any sleep, she jumped right back into action, only to immediately get ambushed by a skeleton. And not just any skeleton, no, this one was rocking full leather armor, making it basically immune to the sun. Great start to the day, but it didn't end there. Next up, she ran into my sworn nemesis, the Enderman. Of course, because why wouldn't my girlfriend accidentally trigger the one mob I've been avoiding for 70 days? And just for fun, a creeper joined the party too. Luckily, she casually dealt with it, like it was no big deal. After that little warm-up fight, she expanded my potato field and then expanded it again, until eventually the entire area was fully planted. So now I officially live on Potato Island trademark. She then did some terraforming and started laying down the foundation for her own build, apparently a barn, because my artistic chicken prison wasn't good enough. Night fell, and of course, she had to fight even more creepers. Then came the lighting project, torches everywhere, because she was afraid of the dark. Just when she thought things were safe, a zombie horde spawned out of nowhere, and not just a few zombies, like 20 of them. Something that literally never happened to me. Must be a women-only event. After slaying her way through the apocalypse, she finally ran inside for safety, only to realize there was no door. Probably stolen by zombies too. Somehow she survived, tucked herself into bed and called it a night. Cue another time lapse, because for the next 3 days and nights she did nothing but build a barn. Full commitment, no breaks, just barn. By day 78, she moved on to the interior, which is when my old nemesis decided to show up. The Enderman, this absolute menace, just stood there, looming around the build site like a creepy project supervisor. She almost looked at him once, but luckily disaster was avoided. Instead, the Enderman just kept staring at her like, yeah, nice beams, maybe at a window. At least he got to witness her making a surprisingly nice interior, way better than anything I ever built. Sleeping downstairs wasn't possible though, too many monsters outside, so she had to move her bed upstairs. Hardcore Airbnb. And of course, the very next morning, she had to fight off zombies in full armor, because the game just loves throwing armies at her. When the barn was finally up, she took it one step further. She completely destroyed my ethical free-range animal habitats and dragged the cows into her industrial scale mess pens. For maximum efficiency, she split them into 2 groups. The unlucky extras, let's just say they didn't make it. She didn't stop there. She even decorated my throne with cool custom signs and added ceiling lights inside the barn. Oh, and at some point, she relocated all the sheep too. I don't know when it happened exactly, but now my barn has both sheep and cows, which is honestly kind of awesome. On day 81, I took some time to admire what she had built. It was genuinely impressive, right up until I may or may not have accidentally let a creeper explode nearby. Totally not my fault, definitely the game's fault. After that little incident, I bred the sheep and cows again, because clearly what my island needed was even more animals. Then I checked my storage system, which was now perfectly unorganized. Basically proof that her influence was still haunting me. The real highlight came when I started working on my 3-field farming plan. Supposedly, my girlfriend had found carrots somewhere, which was incredible. The only problem, she had randomly planted them inside my potato field. Where? No idea. So now I had to play Where's Waldo, but with a single carrot. I spent a solid 10 minutes in free cam flying around just to locate that one precious carrot, and eventually I found it. Victory. With that, I expanded my fields, terraformed the area to make it fit, and finally got the wheat farm completely planted. On day 82, I did a bit more terraforming, filled in some gaps, and then freed the wandering trader I trapped, only about 50 days ago. Don't worry, he was fine, totally fine. Then I duplicated my carrots, because obviously, 1 carrot isn't enough to to start an empire. Today, I dedicated myself to farming. Carrots. Yes, carrots. Truly the peak of human ambition. I laid down the outline like I was some legendary architect building the Colosseum, and then spent the entire day filling dirt blocks like a discount landscaper on minimum wage. By the end, I wasn't farming carrots, I was farming depression. Still though, the rows looked so symmetrical, I half expected angels to descend and bless my crops with Doritos dust. Nature is temporary, fire is forever. The next day, I turned my attention to the forest that dared to block the view of my glorious house. Naturally, my solution was arson. Listen, I didn't mean to cause a small forest fire, but hey, it worked faster than chopping trees. After the flames subsided and the leg disappeared, I cleaned up the remains and admired the view like some victorious warlord surveying scorched earth. And just when I thought peace had returned, I remembered my old nemesis, the poop man who once freed all my sheep. So obviously, I set him on fire too, because revenge is a dish best served flaming. Finally, I calmed down by doing some chill terraforming near the beach and rearranging flowers like some murderous Martha Stewart. Honestly, it's starting to look kinda good. Today, I went full Bob the Builder mode and did some extra terraforming. First, I closed off a random cave because honestly, it was just sitting there like an unsolicited DLC nobody asked for. After that, I proudly marched to my carrot field, ready to slap a roof on it, like some proud farmer turned architect. But then tragedy struck. I didn't have enough carrots. Absolute rock bottom. Imagine preparing a Michelin star buffet only to realize you've got 2 chicken nuggets and a packet of ketchup. So I did the only reasonable thing. Duplicated carrots like some shady black market carrot dealer. Boom, infinite orange sticks of glory. With my newfound stash, I finally managed to fill out the field. And let me tell you, it's not just a carrot field anymore, it's a carrot empire. The kind of place Bugs Bunny would raid and immediately declare war over. After my carrot empire was secured, it was time to aim higher. Literally, I decided my world needed a lighthouse because apparently my house and flaming forest weren't enough landmarks. So I spent the day online, hunting down schematics like some medieval architect scrolling Pinterest. Eventually, I found one and slapped it into my world using the holy mod known as Lightmatica. Basically IKEA instructions, but with more crying. And then 10 straight days of building. 10 days of stacking blocks in a circle like a lunatic who thought geometry was optional. I swear I blacked out and woke up still holding shift like some construction zombie. But slowly, brick by brick, the great lighthouse of doom rose into the sky. A beacon of hope, a symbol of progress. A giant middle finger to anyone who doubted my ability to waste a week of my life on one building. Rainy island aesthetics. So today I decided to admire my island. Naturally, the game hit me with rain because apparently the weather system has beef with me personally. Still though, it actually looked kind of amazing. Especially with my brand new lighthouse standing proud on the right side, like the world's most dramatic nightlight. The left side though, well, yeah, it felt a little empty. A tragic bald spot on an otherwise glorious head of Minecraft hair. Don't worry, we'll fix that in the final sprint. To distract myself, I built a path from my house to the windmill because apparently my villagers need pedestrian-friendly infrastructure. Then I chopped down a spruce tree and a few of those cursed pink trees because obviously deforestation is my favorite hobby after arson. Today I made the bold decision to plant another wheat field. Yes, a 4th one, because nothing says progress like having enough bread to single-handedly bankrupt every bakery in a 50-block radius. My island is slowly turning into one giant gluten factory, and honestly, I'm not even sorry. For the final stretch of this challenge, I decided to unleash my inner Pinterest mom. Step 1. A dog, but not just any dog, the campfire dog, because in Minecraft, the best way to build a pier is to literally set a row of campfires and then drown them. Nothing says craftsmanship like arson, followed by immediate waterboarding. I even put fences underneath so it looked structurally sound, which is hilarious, because this is Minecraft physics we're talking about. Next up, a tiny house, and by house, I mean 4 walls and a roof with absolutely nothing inside. Pure IKEA showroom vibes. Still, it filled up that awkward bald spot on the left side of the island that had been haunting me since day 94. Naturally, this took me 2 full days because I'm a professional at wasting time on buildings that don't even function. Then came the decorating spree. I spammed leaves everywhere like Oprah handing out cars. You get foliage, everybody gets foliage. Tossed down bone meal like a sketchy landscaper and scattered flowers until the place looked like a failed Disney movie set. Built a cute little path to the house, hung lanterns everywhere. Basically, turned my island into a fire hazard with mood lighting. By day 99, I went full beach resort mode, expanded the shoreline, filled everything with sand, placed even more bone meal because apparently I'm addicted to it, and trimmed away tall grass like a lawnmower possessed. And yeah, I spent an entire day making sure everything looked perfect for the thumbnail. And then it finally happened. Day 100. After 21 hours of footage, 2 mental breakdowns and at least 1 forest fire, I had officially survived 100 days on my lonely little island. Truly an achievement for the history books. Or at least for the YouTube algorithm. But of course, I couldn't just stop. Nope, I immediately started decorating the beach because apparently my definition of survival is beach resort simulator. I built some lounge chairs, complete with umbrellas, so my non-existent NPC tourists could work on their non-existent tents. Then I looked to the left side of the island and thought, still empty, still ugly. Solution? A beach bar. Nothing screams post-apocalyptic survival, like cocktails under pixelated parasols. Finally, I climbed up my windmill and looked down on my island. The lighthouse, the wheat empire, the carrot dictatorship, the questionable architecture, all of it standing proud. And just like that, the journey was over. If you enjoyed watching this chaos, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, or even subscribe, or better yet, all three, because YouTube says I'm needy now. Thanks for sticking around, it's been fun.